On behalf of Group 12, we'll be discussing Group 11's research paper titled Transitioning from Fast to Slow Fashion: How Autonomy and Relatedness Influence Sustainable Consumption Behavior Through Green Self-Efficacy. In this presentation, we will provide a brief summary, highlight the strengths and limitations of the study, and end with some questions for further discussion. This study looks at how psychological factors, specifically autonomy and relatedness, influence sustainable consumption behavior in fashion. The authors also tested whether green self-efficacy, which means confidence in one's ability to act sustainably, plays a mediating role. The research question asks, does autonomy improve sustainable behavior through self-efficacy, and does relatedness do the same? To answer these questions, the authors conducted a survey with 172 respondents between the ages of 18 and 79. They measured four constructs: autonomy, relatedness, green self-efficacy, and sustainable consumption behavior. The data was analyzed using SPSS and AMOs with confirmatory factor analysis and structural equation modeling to test the proposed relationships. The results show that autonomy has a significant positive effect on sustainable consumption behavior. In other words, when people feel free to make their own choices, they are more likely to choose sustainable options. However, relatedness was not significant and green self-efficacy did not act as a mediator. Overall, autonomy has the strongest factor, and together the model explained about 37% of the variation in behavior. This paper has several strengths. First, it addresses a very relevant issue: the shift from fast fashion to slow fashion. Second, it highlights psychological drivers like autonomy and relatedness, which are often ignored in sustainability studies. Third, the methodology is strong, using CFA and SEM. And finally, the findings provide practical insights for fashion brands that want to promote sustainable consumption. On the other hand, there are some limitations. The sample size of 172 is relatively small and may not represent all consumer groups. The cross-sectional design's limits our ability to draw causal conclusions. Some measurement issues appeared, for example, low factor loading on certain sustainable consumption items. Also, the study focused only on Indian fashion consumers, so the result may not apply universally. Now, like to raise a few questions. First, could cultural differences explain why relatedness was not significant? Second, was the lack of significance for green self-efficacy due to measurement limitations or because other mediators like awareness might be stronger? Third, how can fashion brands practically encourage consumers' autonomy in making sustainable choices? Fourth, would a longitudinal study over time give different results? And finally, could these findings be applied to industries beyond fashion, such as food or electronics? Thank you for your attention. We have now concluded our review of Group 11's research paper. We hope our summary, critique, and questions encourage further debate and help in refining future research on sustainable consumption behavior.